Think Tank fans, I'm here on the line here with the world-renowned sports photographer, photojournalist Andrew Bernstein. He's done some incredible work shooting with many of the major sports teams down in the LA area and across the country. Has collaborated on books with the greats like Kobe Bryant and Coach Phil Jackson, and has really produced some incredible work. And he's going to have a lot of interesting things to talk about with all these crazy changes coming with sports, with the COVID environment. We're still trying to get back to sports. Everybody wants to get back to their sports, but do it safely, of course. Just like to talk to you a little bit about what's happening now in sports.
Yeah, well, Ted, thanks for having me, man. I love working with you guys at Think Tank. I'm Andy Bernstein. I've been a professional photographer since pretty much my 40th year as a professional photographer. Came from Brooklyn, New York. Ended up going to Art Center, College of Design in Pasadena, California, and then started working as an assistant very early, while I was still in school actually, for Sports Illustrated, and kind of broke on the scene in the LA sports scene around in 1981, 82. Started working for the LA teams pretty much at that same time as a freelancer. But got my first real great gig. My first break actually was with the NBA, the '83 All-Star Game, which was held at the Forum in LA. That was the start of my relationship with the NBA. That now is 38 years. And I became the Dodgers team photographer in '84, and that lasted for 11 years, which is amazing. And pretty much have worked for almost every team in LA, major colleges here. I ran a small stock photo agency out of my garage for a number of years, and then we kind of built that up. And I became, I actually helped to create NBA photos in 1986, along with a good friend of mine at the NBA, Terry Lyons. And that's become the standard of the industry for sports leagues for photo licensing. I have done 37 NBA finals, 37 All-Star weekends. I've done so many international tournaments, Olympics. Probably my plum assignment was being embedded with the Dream Team during the 1992 Olympics, all the way from training camp through the gold medal. Recently, I started a platform, well, not that recent actually, but about 3 or 4 years ago, launched a platform called Legends of Sport, which celebrates and perpetuates, documents legendary athletes, moments, teams, and sport. And we kicked off the launch with a podcast 3 years ago. I'm approaching my 100th podcast that I've done, which is mind-blowing to me. And we recently signed and agreed to a distribution and co-production deal with the LA Times. So we are distributed by them, as well as all the major podcast platforms. And right now, as we speak, we're in the middle of a block of 16 weeks called Restarting the Clock, which are episodes each week devoted to what's going on in the bubble, the NBA bubble in Orlando and the WNBA bubble in Bradenton, Florida. So super fun. I love podcasting.
Okay.
We recently ran a series of legendary photographers, which we partnered with you guys, with Think Tank. You guys were so gracious and generous to donate some great backpacks for that. And we're going to pick that up after this block is over in the fall.
That's quite a pedigree. That's quite a long list of a resume there, and really impressive. Just for, all this budding young sports shooters out there, what does it mean to be, a team photographer, or, what, other than shooting the game, what do you typically shoot for when you're shooting for sports teams?
Well, we are essentially responsible for everything that happens on the field, on the court, or off the field in the court. So things have evolved quite a bit since when I started. I was kind of a one-man band when I first started with the NBA, as well as when I first started with the Dodgers and some of the other teams and venues that I've worked for. And now most of the teams and most of the leagues have their social media teams, their employees. I'm not an employee, I'm a freelancer. So my job description has kind of changed. I've shifted more towards taking care of the leagues, especially the NBA or the NHL. I forgot to mention earlier that I've been with the LA Kings for, it's got to be close to 40 years. They've been one of my longest clients. And we're responsible now mostly for game action. We do some off the court, off the ice photography, but game action is really where we kind of hang our hat, and it's our calling card.
Of course, this whole COVID shutdown thing has really taken a big hit to sports, and I'm sure a lot of sports photographers just said, "Now what do I do?" But I see, we're trying to get sports going again, especially with the bubble in the NBA. And I'm sure there's some safer sports, like golf. I know they're shooting that. Are you seeing a slow return to sports photography, or is it still kind of dicey right now? What's the status of sports photography as a business?
It's so interesting, Ted, because I was just talking to my good friend John Suhu, who took over the Dodgers for me, and we're still great friends. And he's shooting Dodger games at an empty Dodger stadium.
Wow.
I mean, these are real games that count. They're playing real opponents, and it's so bizarre. They have these cutout fans, and it's weird. And I've talked to my colleagues down at the bubble, at the WNBA bubble, the NBA bubble. I have a couple of friends up at the bubble in Edmonton and Toronto who are doing it for the NHL, and it's kind of almost business as usual in terms of how they and myself, when I go to the NBA bubble, are going to have to do our jobs and record the action and document whatever's going on, but in a completely different atmosphere and different environment. So I'm looking forward to that. I haven't taken a picture in 5 months. I literally have not clicked a shutter in 5 months, which is the longest I've ever gone in my career. Even when I was laid up with back surgery a dozen years ago, I was back on the court like within 3 weeks. So I hope that my finger is back normal, and I could get my timing back. It's going to take a few games, I think, for me to kind of get back in the flow. But to answer your question, it's definitely a whole different scenario. And the leagues have been very restrictive as to, how many photographers they're allowing in from the media into the bubble, at the stadiums. So it's a tough time. If somebody's trying to break in sports photography, this is not the time to do it. I got to be honest with you. Let's let this pandemic play itself out, and then we'll get back to that.
Yeah. I imagine though too, that, the media companies are going to want to really build up their presentation of the sports. Is if there's no fans, there's no excitement, with the cardboard cutouts. I mean, that's almost comical, right?
Yeah.
But they must be thinking about different camera angles and different ways to engage the viewers out there and get them more involved with the game. I mean, for a long time, even with like the NFL, they were putting cameras in the cones on the side or in the field, or from the quarterback's helmet or something. So has there been any talk about how to enhance the coverage of the game from a photography or video perspective?
Well, first and foremost, on the NBA, WNBA side, we're not on the court as we normally are. So it's a different perspective when you're not like right under the basket. You're a little bit, removed from the court in the corner. I mean, you're still pretty much eye level, but it's a different look. But I think, the fact that we're going to be in an empty arena, and we are in empty arenas, kind of gives us maybe an opportunity to do a couple of different angles we haven't tried before. I know talking to John and even looking at his work today, I checked out his Instagram. He's able to go in places in Dodger Stadium, and I've seen that with other photographers too, with hockey as well as baseball, and try different things, try different angles, try different lenses, get shots that you wouldn't normally get because, you can't go where fans are. Or block people, that kind of thing. So it is interesting. It brings me back to when I was a young photographer and I was just looking for something different, a different angle on whatever sport I went out to shoot. And again, I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited about whatever, these 2 months have to offer me once I get down to Orlando.
Right. So, let's talk about the bubble down in Orlando a little bit. So, obviously, I guess they don't want to let, a ton of photographers down in there to sort of, it's, they got to protect the players, they got to protect the teams and all the staff. So I would assume that you'd have to go through a rigorous testing. Are you being tested as much as the other athletes?
Absolutely. They have a protocol that is like ironclad. I have to do kind of a soft quarantine, which I'm doing right now for this week leading up to going down there. You know, just not really leaving my house, just go from my house to my office, which is only like 2 miles away. I'm not going to the market. I'm not doing things that I have been doing, you know, during the pandemic. And then once I get down to Orlando, we're tested immediately. And then we are put in a hotel overnight, you know, to wait for that test to come back. That test comes back negative. Move us to the hotel where we're going to be for the duration, which is on campus at Disney. And then we quarantine for 7 days in our rooms, you know, and that's going to be interesting. Tested, you know, once or twice a day, I think constantly, you know, monitored. And if those tests all have to come back negative, and then after 7 days, God willing, you know, they let us out and let us get to work, but with restriction. And, you know, we need to keep our distance from the players and coaching staff. They need to keep their distance from us. You know, we're in the same general area, but there's a big social distancing protocol there as well. So that's different too, because one of my fortes is like behind the scenes stuff and being a fly on the wall in the locker room, and all that stuff is out the door, because we're not doing that. So the biggest question, quite frankly, Ted, is what's going to happen when the team wins the championship? Are we going to have a celebration on the court and a champagne-filled locker room, and, you know, how I've normally covered it for 37, 38 years. So we'll see. More to be revealed once we get down there.
Uh-huh. So you're going to have to wear proper PPE, masks and things like that, or?
Oh, yeah. Masks are mandatory. I think any moment you're out of your room, actually, you have to have a mask on, something you're eating, you know. But when I'm working, I got to wear a mask, which is going to be interesting because I wear glasses. It's going to be, you know, they fog up. I don't know how that's going to work, but I'll figure that out. And, you know, no other PPE other than, you know, full mask use. I will be completely PPE'd up on my way down to Orlando on the plane. But once I get there, I really feel very confident. Mike D'Antoni was on my podcast a couple of weeks ago, and he said he feels safer in the bubble in Orlando than he would be walking on in the streets of Houston right now, which is, you know, Texas is one of the hot spots in our country. So it says a lot to what the NBA's done. You know, every week the tests come back all negative for everybody who's in the bubble. You know, Florida's a tough place right now, but this bubble situation has really proven itself, and it's really proven the precautions that the NBA has taken.
Are you going to be able to bring any staff with you, and how many, and what's your team going to look like?
Well, I normally travel with an assistant, and we normally have, you know, a couple of other techs who are part of conference finals and finals. Don't have that luxury this time. So we have a couple of photographers who are staying through the time that I'll be there with my cohort, Nat Butler. We're going to be there basically for conference finals and finals, but I'm not bringing my usual assistant, which is, you know, interesting. I'm back to being almost a one-man band again. But what's great is that we're basically going to be working out of 2 buildings and then 1 building, and won't have to tear down equipment, won't have to travel, you know. So that is a huge help, because that's a lot of wear and tear during playoffs and finals, is all of that kind of extra work that you have to do. The game is stressful enough, but, you know, the setup, the tear down, the early travel, do it all over again in another city, that's taken out of the equation. So that actually will be a breath of fresh air, quite honestly.
Mm-hmm. So I imagine you've been thinking about all these restrictions and maybe coming up with some new techniques or new coverage ideas, or maybe some different equipment. Can you maybe walk through maybe some of these ideas and some of the equipment changes, or just the average equipment that you bring to the games?
Well, it's funny because, you know, I have my usual game setup, which is remote cameras, clamps, the Flash Wizard system, which sets all the remotes, you know, sets them all up, and they set them up and, you know, fires everything at the same time, you know, cables, all the Ethernet setups we have to have, batteries, AC adapters, all that crap. So I'm taking like twice as much as I usually take, quite frankly. I'm taking lenses I wouldn't normally use on the off chance that, yes, I might find a spot where I could stick a camera that hadn't been done before, or that I just wasn't able to put in a full arena. Or I might try a different lens where I would normally use, a mid-range zoom. I might use something that's tighter. I don't know. We'll see. So it's better to have more than less. It's not like you can run out of the bubble and go to the camera store down the street. So I decided, I might as well just fill up these cases and a couple extra ones and just send everything down there and see how everything works out.
Maybe run through some of your think tank stuff too.
Oh, for sure. I mean, my go-to, the only, carry-on bag I use, the Think Tank Airport Essentials bag. I have my backpack also, that it's a Think Tank backpack. I have my fanny packs. I have the little container bags that I use where I shoot, that has all the doodads and stuff in it. So I am pretty well outfitted with Think Tank stuff, thanks to you guys. And the stuff is great. It's exactly what I need. It's there when I need it. It's durable, it's travelable, it's compact, I'm shocked how much stuff I can fit in that carry-on bag, quite frankly. And, I just actually packed that bag yesterday, so it'll be ready to go next week. So, I'm fully think tanked up.
That's really good to hear. It's great working with such great professionals like you and hearing such good feedback. I mean, it really inspires us at Think Tank, to keep working hard. We're all locked down too. We're in our own little bubble, and we're always kind of thinking of the next thing. And with the COVID shutdown and the lockdown on travel, it's really kind of that's hit the business quite a bit for all of us, in the industry. So it seems kind of doom and gloom, but then when you think about things like the bubble, you mentioned being possibly safer than anywhere else in the bubble. I mean, there are good things that are going to come out of this, and there's a lot of innovation going on right now too. So do you see any positive, light at the end of the tunnel, or just silver linings in the whole COVID shutdown?
Well, I think this experience is going to be, hopefully, knock on wood, a once in a lifetime experience that all of us are going to be going through, who are going to be involved in this NBA bubble situation. Doc Rivers, the Clippers coach, when someone asked him, whoever wins the championship this year, should there be an asterisk next to the season? And he said, there shouldn't be an asterisk, there should be a gold star. because the sacrifice that teams, if you go to the finals, you will be in this bubble situation for over 3.5 months. And that's a long time to be, out of your comfort zone, out of your element, out of, around your family, all of that stuff. It's a huge, huge sacrifice, not just for the players and coaches, but also the team staff that's been with them the whole time, the NBA staff. I have friends who were down there, 6 weeks before the players even showed up, just, to get everything ready and to document all that. So in one sense, what's going to be special is just the specialness of this situation and this season, and how I think we'll all look back on it as being an incredible moment in our careers. But innovation-wise, that remains to be said. I mean, I hope I can come back to you after this and say, yeah, I tried this, or we figured out a way to fire the remote system that we hadn't normally figured out before, or we saw TV do something and we kind of tried to piggyback on that. And so, it's going to be a great learning process, and I'm always up for that. Nat and I started in this thing together, for almost 40 years ago. We helped to develop the Flash Wizard system, which we never thought would actually work, quite frankly. And it took 2 to 3 years of R&D to get it to work, and now it's the standard of what we do. So I'm excited to be down there with him and kind of, see what's out there for us.
Well, I'm really excited to watch too, and just to see, what the teams do and how they play and
Yeah.
interact and how things are going to go. And I'm sure that we are going to see some really great new styles and benefits and things that you guys are going to do. And you
Hmm.
got to be, a top of the line shooter to come up with the next big thing. So they're sending the right guy down there. That's for sure.
Well, I
Um,
appreciate that, man. Thank
yeah.
you.
I wish you the best of luck in the bubble and in the future. And I'll be looking for your shots. And we'll be sharing some stuff. Be sure you send us some photos so we can share it on social media and shine a light on you. So don't get too
Absolutely.
lonely down there in the bubble. It's going to be quite a trip.
Well, I appreciate that, and thanks to all you guys at Think Tank. You're great partners, good guys. You have really brought some great innovation to the photo industry, and I'm just glad to be part of what you do. So thank you for having me today.
It's really been great chatting with you. Have a great day and a great trip.
Thanks, Ted. Take care, man.
Cheers.